Peace be upon you. I am Qadi Tayyib from Qur'anomics. This is part 21 from Islam of the Quran to the Islam of the Hadith. Imam Al-Shafi'i, the true founder of traditional Sunni Islam religion. Title Measurements or Analogy. Al-Shafi'i singles out a chapter on analogy, which he formulated at the beginning of the following confiscated treatise. No one can ever say about something it is permissible or forbidden except from the point of view of knowledge. And from the point of view of knowledge, the news in the book or the sunnah or consensus or analogy. An analogy is what is required by evidence. On the approval of the aforementioned report from the Qur'an or Sunnah, page 3940. Shafi'i and Shafi'i's analogy is by definition as saying. It is obvious that what is meant here is not what the tongue says, but rather what the mind says. But contrary to what comes to mind at first sight, the mind nominated here to say the saying is not an independent who exists by himself. Its decision is in his hands and reference in his self. Rather, it's a purely tool. Rather, it is purely a tool that God installed in his creation in order to infer it by it and lead to his judgment. Whether he stipulated this judgment textually in his book or the sunnah of his messenger, or he left them to strive to extract this judgment on their own by analogy, unless there is a text in it on what was revealed in text. Hence, the upper ceiling of this instrumental mind was ijtihad, not innovation. The function of the analogical intellect, then, is not first but second, not a precursor but a successor. And in the vocabulary of a Shafi'i himself, it is a function operating at the level of branches, not at the level of origins. That is because knowledge is based on two sciences. One, general knowledge, a general knowledge that an adult who is not overpowered cannot be ignorant of. Page 357. And this type of knowledge is found textually in the Book of God, and it is commonly found among the people of Islam. Their common people transmit it from those who passed from their common people. They tell it from the messenger of God, and they do not dispute about this story or his war against them. And this knowledge is the general one in which it is not possible to be mistaken in the news, nor the interpretation, and it is not permissible to dispute it. Page 358. And the first steps of formulation, a well-known denial of religion by necessity. By necessity. Number two, the specific knowledge. It is the knowledge of the branches of the obligatory duties and the specific rulings and others, which is not in the text of a book, nor in most of it is the text of the Sunnah. And if there is a Sunnah in some of it, then it is from the special news, not the news of the general. And what was of it, and what was of it could be interpreted and should be reconsidered by analogy. Page 359. Boy, he's putting so much conditions, so much restrictions, unbelievable. And even the margin that Al-Shafi'i left for the standard intellect is getting narrower as he defines the scope of the limits of reason in what the common people say from predetermined sources, then narrows them down after in the last paragraph to define the scope with the limited space that did not come from a text from the book or the sunnah, but with a more limited space. And it is the one that remains for him after excluding the space occupied by the relics of the companions, so there is no conscious consensus of scholars. And the Shafi'i referred to the effect of the companions, where he said in his book, The Mother, we followed the book and the sunnah of the Messenger of God and the antiquities on the companion. Chapter 7, page 38. Also, we say in the effects, they follow as they came. and we do not accept a valid analogy on the traces. Part 2, page 1049. And he concludes all of this in his saying, the book of differences of Hadith, knowledge is from two aspects, following and deduction. And following is following the book, then if not, then it is a general saying from our predecessors, undisputed. If it is not, then it is an analogy according to the book of God. If it is not, then to the Sunnah of his messenger. And if it is not, then it is an analogy according to the saying of most of our predecessors. Then it is an analogy according to the saying of most of our predecessors. Book of Al-Mazni, part 7, page 2006 to 2675. Why he leaves no stone unturned. Well, this is his saying from the Shafi with the pages and the chapters and the books. And you have to read it and analyze it for yourself. It's simple. It's clear as day. You just need to put them all together to realize what it is. Wow. I'm Khalid Tayyib. This is Quranomics. Thank you for following. And we'll have part 22 and final chapter coming up. Thank you for following.